Okay, OBS is streaming, so that means that YouTube should show me that it's streaming, but it doesn't. It takes about 1 minute. So what am I going to do for that 1 minute while it takes for YouTube to... there it is. Okay, so let's turn this on. Mute the audio. Okay, what are we going to do today? I'll tell you one thing I'm going to do today is probably lose this seat. This is just a tip for you, because this scene, for example, begins at 365. If I go down into the sub-X sheet, it begins at 1. Originally, when I created the sub-X sheet, those frames were all starting, as you might guess, at 365. So I dragged them up to 1, and then hit resequence right there, which allows the main X sheet to synchronize with the sub-X sheet as you might expect. What's notable, at least I think this is what has happened, is if I take these columns and drag them, in this case from frame 365 up to frame 1, then the resequencing works exactly as you might hope, which is that the when it resequences, these frames still begin at 365. If, however, I had gone down here in the sub-X sheet to frame 365 and cut and pasted them at frame 1 instead of dragging them to frame 1, then in the main X sheet I would actually find all of these cells, if you will, starting at frame 1, and then have to drag them back down. So you're either going to have to drag them down or drag them up. That's the way it is with Toonz. It's always one or the other. So, anyway, this guy, he's probably got some contrast issues, but I believe that it was this shot here, I'll just drag down to this, where I started using the Toonz raster levels for my inking. Did I? Actually, I don't know if this one I did. That one I don't think I did. Actually, I think it was the next one. I actually jumped to this cut over here. I don't even remember why, but I jumped to this one, and I did this one as a Toonz raster level, so obviously it still needs a background. But then yesterday I did this shot, which I think probably is getting... actually, let's jump into the sub-X sheet so it's a little smarter about the preview range. Get down to here. Okay. And I'm going to hit a stop marker and hit the L key. So I would just say that using the Toonz raster levels on for the ink is it's just really clean, really super clean. I like the way it looks. Now today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try doing inking. I'm going to re-ink one of these shots using Toonz vectors. So that should be, we'll see how that goes. The potential advantage of vectors is, I mean, it's got to do with editability. See, this might be problematic though. This shot's pretty clean. I don't know why I don't think re-inking this one even makes any sense. So I think we'll skip that one. So then we got this shot that we already did, but we've got to put a background behind it. But I'm really more interested in inking today, so that's what I'm going to focus on. Okay, this guy definitely needs to be re-inked. Okay, that's cool. So let's redo this one with vectors. Now I'm going to take my headset off and go ahead and get rid of the hoodie, and then we'll start inking. Wow, that didn't take long. Red hoodie, red t-shirt, two different shades of red in the same place. There are countries where you could get thrown in jail for that, actually. At least that's what I've heard. Okay, so this starts at 7:01. So I already created the sub-X sheet, but I haven't really done anything with it. So now I'm going to illustrate what I said before. What I want to do is jump out of the main X sheet. Sorry, I always hit down instead of up. I want to jump out of this X sheet and have it jump right to frame 1 and have my cells be there. So in order to do that, there's two ways I could do it. I could take these cells down here and drag them up, or I could cut and paste them. Now you can see that these are all red because they got pasted away. Well, let's start fixing that. First thing we got to do is resequence it. Okay, and actually, okay, forget what I said. That worked. So it actually knows that we still want them. The resequencing operation took the cells that were at frame 1 in the sub-X sheet and started them here. So cool, that's how we wanted it to work. And indeed, the thing I actually think is super cool about it is that here I can be actually at frame 701, but when I go into the sub-X sheet, it goes ahead and jumps back up to frame 1. Seems like a small thing, but it's just, it beats. If this were at frame 701, then I would always have to scroll up. So, you know, whatever. It's not the end of the world either way. But okay, what we want to do now is get busy with redoing this ink, and we're going to do it. Can't believe I'm even hearing myself say this, but yes, we're going to do it with bloody vectors. Bloody vectors are what we're going to use today. And we're going to do it with courage and optimism. Aren't we? Yes, we are. So what we're going to do is take this drawing and bring it down to super light so you can just like barely see it. And then we're going to take a drink of our coffee. Because coffee is, I don't drink a lot of, actually this is it. This is the only coffee I drink. I drink one fairly big ass mug of coffee in the morning. Of Cafe Bustelo, which I have shown you the label of the can in another video. It's very good coffee. And then after that, I actually, if you can believe it or not, some of you might be grossed out by this, but after that, what I do is I actually heat up hot water, and typically all morning I drink hot water. So anyway, somebody's got to do it, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Alt-N, which creates a new level, and I'm going to create a Toonz vector level. Man, I'm feeling bold. I can't even believe I'm doing this. So there's two ways we could do it. We could do it with the brush, or we could do it with the G key. The brush is, in my experience, is the more flaky of the two, but we'll give it a crack. Okay, I'm going to, just to keep this sane, I'm going to keep the level locked at 1. I wonder if this can even go to 0. I don't think it can. Maybe it can. Let's see what happens. So let's add pressure, and we'll go ahead and kick this up because I just want to get a feel for the brush, right? Jeez, that looks pretty good. Every once in a while I surprise myself. Okay. So I got fairly minimal smoothing on. The thing that's helping me here is I've got the accuracy set to 1. So the problem, see, that I don't like at all. That's kind of weird. When I go this way, the line is wider. So it's kind of like, yeah, and accuracy, I guess let's just kind of go about 1/3 on accuracy and smoothing. So the smoothing is going to give me a little bit of drag, just like it does with the Toonz raster levels. And the accuracy, you could think of it as, it's all about smoothing your lines out, but you could think of it like this. The accuracy protects you from natural, you know, if you're drawing, especially if you're drawing a line slowly and carefully, your OBS is acting stupid. And now it seems to be back. So one good thing here with the S key is, if I'm not mistaken, I believe, yes, I can actually make adjustments to my line width right here. So if I want them all to be 1 pixel, you can do it instantly by hitting the S key and then just setting the line width here, which I find to be quite useful. So I'm going to go back to my brush, and what I want to do, what I really wanted to do is just do 1 and 1. Just keep them 1 pixel wide, because we can always use the tire pump tool to do this sort of stuff. We can always go back and make some slight adjustments to the width of the lines. So the thing I'm most interested in at this point is getting clean lines down on the page. The one good thing with the vector tool, if you can see that little green, I don't know if you can see that, there's a little green circle right there that is an indicator of snapping. So okay, so here's another thing. This is when Adam Earl posted a comment on the video I think I did yesterday, mentioning, basically recommending using, you know, give vectors a try kind of thing. So I was like, it just happened I was going to do that today anyway. This is the thing, in my response to his suggestion, this is exactly what I was talking about. You see this all the time. All the time. 100% of the time. On every machine, multiple machines I've used, multiple tablets, not just the XP Artist 15.6, but also a standard Wacom, a normal tablet. Doesn't matter. This is what happens with vectors in Toonz. It's very, very funky about putting strange little bits of swelling, a little bit of inflammation. It's got it hasn't been taking enough antioxidants because there's inflammation in the lines. Pretty crazy. So just gonna see how this goes. I feel like I got my smoothing up too high, but I guess as I'm doing this, what I'm thinking is, let's turn the pressure off and see if that solves that problem. I think it will. I think with the pressure off, I just get a 1 pixel line, and frankly, for inking purposes, that's what I want, because it's just a nice crisp line. We can always you know, make it a little lighter like the previous ink lines were. So it's just, everything's easier to control if we just kind of stick to a simple type of brush, if you will. Now, where we may run into a problem, and we shall see, with Toonz, has to do with filling. I mean, I've seen the vector tool's been rather flaky about filling ever since I've used Toonz, which is, I don't know how long it's been, but it's been at least a year or so, year or two, somewhere in there, ever since Toonz came out. Okay, so the reason these lines are different width is obviously because of the I had the minimum at 0 before. I guess that's the reason, but I do find this a little annoying. You see that? So it's like I'm using snap, but yet the snapping doesn't actually happen. It's like it says it happened, but I don't think it did. So we will come back to that, I'm quite sure. But yeah, I'm not sweating the exact width of my lines, because I know I'm going to change them in a minute anyway. Okay, let's see here. I want to do one thing. I think I'm just going to make this, I want to make this like blue or something, just because all I want here, sorry, I shouldn't have done that. I should have snapped it first. I'm thinking I'm going to use this. in auto paint for lines mode, so that when I color the eyes, that line disappears. Now I am going to want the line underneath, so now the snapping's kind of being a little funky, understandably, but I'm just going to go with that for the moment and see how it goes. Not too worried about it. Okay, those little shapes aren't really quite working for me, so I'm going to go ahead and actually leave that as an ellipse so it can be slightly vertical. So that's one nice thing with the vector tool, is you have the ability to create geometric shapes and stuff. So alright, so now I can't hit A, so I'm going to hit the S key and select everybody, and I'm going to turn these all down. Now that says 0. Does that mean that if I render this I'll see nothing? No, it doesn't. So I'm going to kill this layer completely. Oh yeah, it did. Or make sure I'm on the right. Yep. Okay, so that's what I was actually expecting to have happen. So if you can follow what went on there, I'm grabbing these vectors and I'm going to put the line width at 1. Come on. Got to keep your mouse over it. I always forget that. Okay. Now, okay, let's go to the brush tool just so we're not on the S key. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so now what we want to find out is, can we well, I guess I do have one more line I need to draw here, obviously. And frankly, there should probably be one there as well. Okay, so interesting question is, can you cut and paste a palette from a Toonz raster level to a Toonz vector level? Gee, let's find out. Let's go into this level. Actually, no, I'm not going to go into this one because that one doesn't have as tight of a palette. This one does. This one has just the colors I want for my ninja characters. So I'm going to hit Control C. And obviously I could also save the palette. Save palette as. I'm not even going to. I'm going to call this ninjas. See, it should save it in the palettes folder. I wonder if it will. Anyway, I'm going to go back up out of this sub X sheet, go down into this one. Okay, now that's interesting. Okay, there we go. And now I'm going to go Control V. Yeah, and it sort of overwrote some of my colors. So, okay. Well, no, I guess it didn't. It didn't. Cool. So this particular color, as I said before, is going to be auto paint for lines. And now the zillion-dollar question is the filling gonna be as how do I put this? Actually, you know what I just realized? I have a major mistake here. I forgot we changed the guy's hairdo. We changed his hairdo. This is not correct. So take this sucker out of preview mode and let's get out our eraser, because this has got to go. I'm going to catch that other line a little different way. Okay. And actually all that should be gone. So frankly, there we go. Can we do that? Oh yeah, that's close enough for rock and roll, as they say. Okay, I'm gonna hit the C key, see if I can delete it that way. Control X. I guess you gotta hit delete, not Control X. So again, I had snapping on. Theoretically this should be snapped, yet it's not. There's another way that OpenToonz may compensate for that though, and I'll get to that in a minute. But actually I'm going to try using the arc tool, just because. Okay, so the problem with the arc tool is you lose your snapping. but it is very nicely accurate. The only problem is I did both of those lines with the auto paint for lines color, so shame on me for that. What if I just took this and extended it like that? Okay. Works for me. So there you go. There's your big benefit with vectors, is the editability aspect. At least that would be my personal take on it. So you would think with vectors that the whole fill process would be a little more reliable. In point of fact, my experience is that it is less reliable. Let's find out. Okay, so there you go. This is what you always get with OpenToonz. So I already said it, and now I'm proving it. Okay, well, we can use the tape tool. Tape tool. We don't want endpoint to endpoint. We want line to line. Okay, except we really need to use the auto paint for lines color. And then let's fill that, and it didn't delete the auto paint line. Okay. So all in all, not impressed so far. It's every bit as won't it fill. There's a couple options we can look at. First thing I'm going to do, just for kicks and giggles, is I'm going to do a freehand fill just to see if that's a little smarter. Nope, it's not. So let's examine this. Okay, first of all, let's look at the logical fact here. All right, the flesh tone did not bleed into the mask. Therefore, we know that this is closed. It's got to be a closed shape or it would have bled into the mask. Therefore, what might the problem be? The problem is so mind-numbingly dumb, I suspect, as to barely be worthy of comment. The problem is, I think, is that Toonz vector levels are, as you see here, I don't see it because I need that to be on. Toonz vector levels do give you an infinite canvas, which is wonderful. Except, I think there's a catch. And the catch is that even off the page, your shapes need to be closed. Now, in my opinion, I can kind of see the point. It kind of sort of encourages you to go ahead and use that infinite canvas and sort of think of the think in terms of objects instead of thinking in terms of a drawing or a frame. And I see that point. This is where vectors can be really handy because, and by the way, I think this is going to fill now. Let's just find out. Let's hit the F key and boom. Oh, can't be in freehand mode. Sorry. There you go. It worked. Okay, so that means this guy needs to be lighter, just like we've been doing. Excuse me. But the bad news is that means that this is definitely not going to fill. Now this will. I could add some decorative stuff to his to the forehead thing, but I'm since I'm moving kind of fast here, I think I'm going to go ahead and make a few corrections. And I guess we'll do that, and then we'll do this, just so we can say, well, that should fill with flesh tone, and theoretically that should fill with black, but it doesn't. Why doesn't it? Probably because of something like this. There we go. Alright, so not a big deal. I mean, to me, the other thing let's look at this. Let's do another thing. Okay, I just removed that fix that I did with the tape tool. So now Ninja Costume, I'm going to take minimum gap here and put it up as high as it'll go. There you go. So, it's one of those things you can complain about it, but at the same time, at least OpenToonz provides some other tools to You can always solve a problem in more than one way with OpenToonz, it seems, and I like that. That's good. Okay, I didn't really want to do that. I actually wanted to kind of, I don't really like that shape. That's better. Okay, so obviously that's going to have to be connected, and obviously this is going to have to be fixed. So the point that comes up for me with this kind of work right here is working with the vectors, because you always wind up having to do this, like little tiny fixes and get rid of little dots and hiccups and things. And it does make you ask the question, well, have I really saved any time or gained any benefit compared to just drawing? You know, it takes 1 second to redraw a line, right? So, but what I'm going to do here is go like that, and what the heck, I'm feeling naughty. Let's go ahead and fix it with the tape tool. Look at that. Okay, then that's not good. That's not good. Why is it filling this? Well, who knows? Whoops. Didn't want to do that. Okay, so I'm happy that it filled. I guess there you go. It's problem fixed. Okay, so right here is actually the huge advantage of vectors. This is why vectors are cool. It's because of stuff like this. You know, I can decide after the fact to rescale this guy, and once again, I'm gonna. You notice that the line scaled down to 0.66, so that's an interesting thing too that makes it very different from Blender. In Blender, the lines would retain their same thickness no matter how big the thing is. Whereas here, if you scale them, it scales the lines too, which is almost always what you want. So, what do I want to do here? I want to go Alt-0, so I'm back to normal size, and I'm hitting the A key just to switch. Okay, so now this is interesting. This is interesting. Yet another, this is an example of the vector blues. Actually, I was going to say, I wonder if, okay, we're going to try something here. I'm going to hit the C key and just grab that vector. And what I want to do is I want to make it a different color. So what if I hit the K key? How would I do this? If I hit the K key and grab that, it grabs my outline. I'm going to have to redo this line. I guess the takeaway here is don't screw up. And okay, so now delete. Okay, thank you. So I want to make sure I have my outline color selected here. And before I go too much further, I want to look at this. Yeah, didn't really like that. Okay, so now if I take the T key, I can use the T key or I can use the brush. Yeah, I don't think it matters. If I use the brush, obviously there was some variability there in my line, but I think I can hit Shift. You see, if I hit Shift, then it's like doing a polyline, so kind of hard to argue with that. That worked really well. Okay, so the only other thing one might object to here is there's some definite messiness down here, and it's completely my fault because, like I said, I was using the wrong color when I did that little repair. Zip, zip, zip in there, and you can see. Okay, so that's the ear. So again, as long as we're going to try to use editability to our advantage, I guess that's actually causing problems. So we lost our fill. Okay, so really this needs to be like that. I was zoomed in, and for some reason I was thinking for a minute there I thought I was dealing with the ear. So once I fix this stuff up, obviously some other stuff gets broken. Well, it fixed up pretty easily. So the only thing in this whole mess that is really annoying is the fact that It appears to me, folks, and you can weigh in if you have a different opinion, but it looks to me like auto paint for lines with vector levels simply doesn't, or with Toonz vector levels just doesn't work. Because these lines under his eyes were set to auto paint for lines, and when I filled the eyes and when I filled the flesh, so in other words both sides of it, neither one of them caused the blue lines to disappear. So we have two choices. We can, if we delete the lines, we're going to lose our fill, so probably the best option is just to make them transparent and stop complaining about it. Just say we'll just hide them. So we'll hide them by turning their alpha down to 0. Obviously this is questionable at best, but so if I got 2 people watching, so if you're tuning in new, the thing that we're doing today that's a little different is working with I'm going ahead and inking this particular shot using using Toonz vectors instead of Toonz raster, which see is what we see here. Why the fill would keep disappearing like that, though, is I'm not really quite getting how that's a big win. But so the only solution I see, frankly, is to me that OBS just pooped out. OBS pooped out and then reconnected. Okay. So at least we've solved it. The only thing that remains is that little bit of weirdness. But I think the easiest way to deal with that little bit of weirdness is to hide it. Oh, and that caused my fill on the eye to disappear. Man, look at that. Well, Adam Earl, this is for you, Adam Earl. If you wondered why I haven't really used Toonz vectors too much, you're seeing it right now. I'm not going to just bail out here and quit, but I'm telling you, this is exactly the kind of stuff I was talking about. It's a little flaky, man. It's a little flaky. So can we fill this shape now? Yeah, we can, so that's good. What about this? Can we do this the kludgy way and just fill it? Yes, we can do that too. So that's the good news with OpenToonz. There's always a way, right? There's almost always a way. It can be a bit of a pain at times, granted, but usually it's at least possible to do what you're trying to do. So now in this case, what I really want to do is give this a little bit of curvature. And so now the question becomes, how do you break this so that they operate independently? My guess would be probably Shift, Control. Nope, Control does not do it. Or Alt. Yep, Alt would be the one. Okay, that's what we wanted. You can see the icon change, so that's cool. Super cool, actually. So why are we going to have those 2 points in there? So let's just hit the Alt key. Oh, come on now. And make like that. So again, we're sort of back to this. This is where vectors, this is why you use vectors, is to be able to do stuff like this. So that's cool. Alright, now he doesn't really have much shading because of the way he's been scaled down. This is all completely wrong now. So I know this is kludgy, folks. I know this is a little obnoxious, but I'm literally going to do this in the most cheating sort of way, just because I can. And there you go. He's hidden off the page, yada yada yada. Okay, so now I'm gonna do one quick sweep here on my vector dimensions, and what I'm gonna do actually is, let's set it to 5 just to see what happens. Yeah, that's correct. And then when it I wonder if I'm gonna do something here real quick. I don't want the combo viewer necessarily. Let's just do a viewer. Quick and dirty. Okay, so the viewer is going to show the same selection. So, okay. So what I was checking there is if you see how it's all dashed because it's selected. I was just wondering if I had to deselect it to see what the preview looks like. It looks like I do. I'm going to just hit the A for the A key. Look at that. Rendered. Okay, so my assessment is it looks very, very good. But obviously the lines are too fat. So with that, we'll take the S key. I love the fact that they put the width control right up here in the bar. Alright, switch that back to 1. And let's see what that looks like. So now I would say that most of what I've done, and I know I need to fill in the pupils of his eyes, folks. I'm aware of that. All in all, though, it looks pretty good. I'm reasonably satisfied with it. Let's go back here and start looking at... I think it's just this one frame, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, nope, not true. Okay, so we're going to find out if it's possible to use these vectors to our advantage to save some time in dealing with the other keyframes. So let's turn this on. Alright, and since it just seems like the right thing to do, I'm going to go ahead and make this match up to my original drawing again. Just so everybody's on the same... Oh, I'm on the wrong level. I'm such a silly boy. The live stream seems to be frozen again. Okay, so I seem to do better with a rectangle when I'm dealing with the S key. So I'm going to go ahead and scale him up. He's not quite where he needs to be. Okay, cool beans. Now, I think what I'll do is put the original drawing over top of it. Like so. I don't know, this may backfire, but I was thinking I'll lock it so it can't accidentally be selected. And then we'll go down here and look at what happens. See, it looks like he just turns his head up, but then he, okay, and then he's looking down on the guy, and then he turns his head. So yeah, these are definitely very different keyframes. Alright, so probably we could get away with a... Let's go ahead and try this. Let's do an S key manipulation and see if it inserts a keyframe for us. I have no idea if it's going to. Before I do this, I want to grab the... Okay, that's not what I meant to do. Okay, this is going to definitely... Sorry folks, I'm just thinking out loud. I think we should make 2 layers. Why am I... If his head's going to move around but his torso isn't, then why am I going to have the torso in the same layer? So I'm going to hit Control X. I'm going to go back up here, hit Control V. Just go ahead and move this to the back again. We'll go back to the way we were doing it before, which is just have this somewhat transparent. Because what's going to happen is when we get up to the frames where it changes to a different pose, I'm going to be redrawing it anyway, which means all of this will be erased. It won't be covering up the guide drawing. Okay, so at this point, stupid YouTube, as usual with the live stream, is freezing up on me. And it looks like nobody's watching anyway, so anyway, onward and upward. So what do we need to do? Well, first of all, let's hide this, and let's go ahead and sort of solve it this way. Let's hit the B key. Let's draw what would be there, like that. And what just happened? What just happened was I drew it in the wrong freaking level. And it disappeared again. Why did it disappear? Because I drew it in the wrong level again. What I'm trying to figure out is how that's possible. I see what's going on. Okay, if I hide this level, boom, it's selected. Anything I draw is going to be in that level. So even if you go and turn a level off, you better click back on the level where you wanted your drawing to occur. So, and you as the viewer probably already knew that. But I'm just not that bright. Okay, so now let's turn this off, and then we got a couple lines here we definitely need to get rid of. So I wonder if we've got we don't really have a normal selection tool. I guess that, yeah, just click on it. Okay, so if we hit that and hit delete, good, that worked perfectly. So now we can turn that back on. And obviously we probably should put in a shadow, but let's go ahead and get down to here. And what we're going to do is we're going to decide, do we want to just do a manipulation of these levels in order to get that first keyframe, or do we want to draw a new picture? So I'm going to go ahead and select these keys and get rid of them, just so that we can get to this spot right here. And we're going to be going from this to this. Okay, so let me look at this real quick. Okay, yeah, so he's looking down, and it's actually like his shoulder turned. So, okay. Alright, my opinion for this shot, I'm going to, boy, we can't just draw into it. I better switch to the drawing. What I need to do is go like this. Hit the D key, so I've got a second image. And then go back here to animation, and let's stick this second image in. So these two, get rid of those, and let's just drag this into here. Okay, it's just for this one pose. It makes more sense to just manipulate what I already did, as opposed to redrawing it. So to sort of make that match the guide pose, all we need, whoops, got to make sure we grab the whole thing. Okay, cool. So, okay, that worked. Okay, so now the problem is that actually, you know what? I'm going to do this the same way. I'm going to see if I can actually finagle this into looking the way I want it to look without having to do much work. Okay. Alright. Does that connect? I don't know if that connected or not. I hope it did. That would be cool. Alright, so let's go back to the drawing. What was I using before? The basics? Yeah, I guess I was using basics. I think I was in basics mode. Okay, the easiest way to solve what I'm about to try to solve is to just go into the drawing itself as opposed to the frame. That way I'm not fighting with the other levels, right? So we're just going to go to Ninja Costume and fill the darn thing. Okay, so now this looks a little hokey because we're seeing all the stuff we're not supposed to see. However, it's certainly not perfect. What I want to do here, okay, I'm going to hit Control Z. What I really like about this actually is the fact that we can just mush these Bezier controls around. Okay, that's basically what I was after, but what I need to do, that's the ninja costume, so what I need to do is go into the color, make sure I'm in the right spot, and just add a couple lines so that there's some sense of the costume going on there. So now what I was trying to say before is this really needs to be cut off like that so you can really see that's kind of what's supposed to be happening. So if we look at the original, it's a little more extreme in the new version. But the good thing is I can go right here, hit the S key, and just select it all. And okay, when you use the S key, it's important that your mouse is over the actual vectors. if it's over this space, it'll let go of the selection. So something to be aware of. So I'm going to go ahead and just adjust this so it's a little more in keeping with what we really intended. And now this, let's see what happens if we add this level back in. Doesn't quite work. And I don't want to get into using the animate tool, so I'm going to say let's just do a slight modification to this. So again, we're kind of dealing with the same thing I've said before about working with vectors. Is honestly, the crap that I'm doing right now would be a lot faster to just redraw it. You know, why are you going to dink around with trying to make these vectors connect and this and that and the other when you could just draw another picture, right? And here, what I'm going to do is just exactly that. I'm going to hit the B key, and I'm just going to draw a shape here and hope it closes. I have no way of seeing if it did, so I'm going to hit the F key. Oops, didn't mean to fill it with that color. I meant to fill it with this color. And yet it doesn't want to fill. Why is that? Pretty strange, but if I go back here and turn these guys back on, sorry. Extend that to there. Does that look right? I have to say that I'm moving faster than I should today. And so you could argue that I'm being a little lackluster about the quality of the final imagery, and you would be completely right. And it's all just because I'm trying to work with these vector levels and just see if things are gonna work the way I expect them to work, and whether it's even a workable workflow. Just a heck of a sentence to say. Okay, and then this one still seems too high to me, so I'm just going to try to make sure I grab all of it. And by having this other layer behind, okay, that is better. And that goes by really fast. So now we're going to just get into drawing this. I would say we put it on the same level as the other faces. So now the point I made before being that you're generally wiser with vector layers or levels to kind of sort of think in terms of an infinite canvas, because Toonz treats it as an infinite canvas, and if you don't close that line, you won't be able to fill it. You just won't, and that would be kind of uncool. So what do I want here? That's the C key. This is the pinch tool. Now the pinch tool, if you have a really big corner size and, you know, just size, then the pinch tool's definitely very useful. You can do the kinds of manipulations people usually kind of, whoops, wrong tool there, folks. I wanted the iron. Now the iron, honestly, I wish had a little more to it in terms of it's actually faster to do it this way. Take the C key, grab a bunch of these and delete them, and then just reshape it with the Bezier curve. At least that's what I've found. So now in this case I actually need to use both of these to sort of get the skull shape that I'm after. And in this case, by the way, I was just thinking about the term, okay, let's hit undo a couple times. Yeah, the term "what I'm after" is a very American term. I don't know if the British say that, but when an American says "what I'm after," what they mean is what I intend to do, what I intend to accomplish. But I was just thinking about it. It's a strange phrase. This is what I'm after, as opposed to what I'm before. You know, it's strange. It's I don't know if that's uniquely American, but we all have our verbal idioms, obviously. So one thing I will say about the OpenToonz Toonz vector level is that the responsiveness of the tool seems quite good. It's not like it's laggy or skippy or, you know, all the things one might complain about a drawing tool. It actually seems to be pretty responsive, so I cannot complain about that aspect of it. And honestly, I can't really complain about the fact that it makes you close your lines even if they're outside of the frame. I think it's a little silly. The best thing would be if you had the choice. You can decide to either require shapes to be closed, or probably if it was knowing how the OpenToonz developers do it, what they probably would do is they would have something in the options that says have camera border closed shapes or something like that. And if you click and toggle it on, then if the line bleeds over to this edge, it's considered a closed shape. Not a huge deal. So let's do like the anime guys in Japan do, at least some of the ones I've seen on YouTube, which admittedly was probably about a 10-year-old video, but they were using the arc tool like crazy. So click, 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 boom, click, 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 boom, click, 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 boom, click, 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 boom, click, click, click. And so the obvious question here is it a closable shape? And it looks like it's a little flaky. However, you can just take the tape tool and fix it, but ideally you wouldn't have to. So now the other way to do the same thing, which I prefer, I'm going to hit the G key and go with polyline. Now if you're going to use, I will tell you this, if you're going to use Toonz vector levels, especially if you're not a great artist, the polyline tool is your friend, because now it's like click, 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 do everything with straight lines, close the shape, and then hit the C key and just fine tune it. To me, especially, I mentioned this yesterday, if I was doing a show that had an aesthetic more like a Cartoon Network show, so I'm thinking like Johnny Test or you know, whatever. I was going to say Johnny Bravo, but I didn't want to say two Johnnies in a row. This type, the polyline tool is great. Click, 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 click. Right? And then just take the C key and fine tune your lines. For me, and I'm going to actually delete that. For me, this is generally probably the preferred way to use a vector drawing tool, just because you really have control over what you're doing. So we want the G key, click, 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 close it, hit the C key, fine tune it, and again in this case I'm actually going to delete that node. And the other thing about the polyline tool is you can pretty well depend on the fill areas actually being fillable, which is kind of important. Okay, so I'm going to hit the Alt key here. That doesn't really work. Let me see here. The control point editor versus the pinch tool. I'm using the control point editor, but it isn't always, let's say, maximally intuitive. See that? That's grabbing up here, and there don't appear to be any vectors, any Bezier controllers down here, which is a little strange. I I wonder if that's got something to do with the node I deleted. So now the question for me would become, can you subdivide it? You know, vector tool, can I take this and this and actually, let's see, I guess is it control or is it shift? It adds a new node. So for all my complaining from time to time, this is what I will tell you I do like about OpenToonz is there's almost always a way. You just have to sort of figure it out. So back to the B key. And this doesn't really seem to work, but I'm going to try it anyway. Okay. Right. Remember I made this color the alpha like super low. And the reason I did that, I just want to see what happens here. Yeah, see, that's annoying. If this option is selected, okay, auto paint for lines is unselected because I guess I chucked it. Oh, no, it's unselected because I'm on the wrong color. This color says auto paint for lines. That means when I fill it, that blue line should disappear. And that's the normal way you do it with a Toonz raster level, which is a bitmap as opposed to a vector drawing. If auto paint for lines is turned on, you can set up, but let's try this. Actually, let's do something here. Or are we going to see a white gap? There's no white gap. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. As far as I'm concerned, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, that's fine. Auto paint for lines doesn't need to work as long as we have the ability to cut the alpha off and not have some stupid border between our shadow area and the area that we were trying to fill. So now, with that, let's back up here a little bit. I believe that the issue here, so let's just make sure that I'm going to get rid of this color. Oh, okay. That's fine. Forget it. So I'm going to take the tape tool and just, I guess I'm not going to take the tape tool. Endpoint to line, yeah. The tape tool is being a little more demanding. Okay, so now what I need to do is grab this color, hit the R key, RGB, and I'm going to sample that because I actually want my outlines to be that color, right? So now you can see the problem once again here, which this is actually off. Whoops. This is actually off the screen, so it shouldn't matter. But I want to make this point. The tape tool makes you choose endpoint to endpoint, endpoint to line, or line to line. It's a bit of a pain. At least in this version of OpenToonz, it's actually easier to just use the brush. The brush doesn't care. The brush just lets you kind of do what you want to do, and it serves the same purpose. So now this should fill up right here. Yep, it did. And for this guy, I'm going to give him black hair. I need the geometry tool. Let's do circles for eyes. Actually, whoops, Control Z. You could use the ellipse tool, but it's easier to be more exact if you just use the circle tool. So ninja costume, fill that up. Oh, it won't fill. Why won't it fill? There must be a gap somewhere. I don't really see a gap. Oh yeah, okay, another stupid attack while I'm here. That line, let's hit the S key. That line's got to go. This guy is bald. He doesn't have hair. Well, he does, but it's like a ponytail tied up back here, right? You've seen that. Okay, so how are we doing here? YouTube's got to be refreshed yet again. Nobody's watching. I don't blame you. This is kind of boring. All right, ninja costume, fill it. Won't fill it. Will not fill that. Okay. See, that should fill. Is that a separate layer? I don't think so. Yeah, this is all in the same layer, and yet this shape will not fill. And yet these shapes did. Let me double check this. Okay, yes. And it didn't bleed into here, so that means that the problem has to be either here or here. Maybe here. Otherwise it would fill. Clearly there is no problem there. I will get rid of that though. Is there an issue here? Sure doesn't look, whoops. Sure doesn't look like it. Is there an issue? There could be an issue there, but that should have bled. I mean, come on. That should have caused this fill to bleed into the other area. Now, do what you want with it, but here's the fill tool again, and it won't fill. It will not. So what can we do? Well, there's the problem right there. Dang. Sorry. Stupid attack. I mean, it's my own fault. Okay, it worked. Okay. So now let's look at these 3 keyframes in sequence. See if we like the way, and by the way, this should be stretched down to there. So let's go. Got a little problem right there with that keyframe. Is the problem, oh, that's because, why is this, oh, I see. Actually, I think this should probably be extended. Just stretch this down 2 frames. Does that work? I don't know. Maybe I tried that before. He moves his head up. Okay, so I feel like we have a scaling problem here. This is the kind of stuff that it's like, you know, Dave, how can you be so dumb? How can you not have known that that was happening? But you sort of get in the zone and just don't realize. It's still too big. That head is too big. I'm just gonna still slightly too big? I think so. I'm gonna tweak until it feels right. That's better. That looks like the same guy. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so then he turns to this angle right here. Okay, I'm not absolutely thrilled with that pose, frankly. I'm going to turn this back on. I really like to see only what the camera's going to see. The problem with vector levels is you have to draw outside the lines. If this was a Toonz raster level, let's do it that way. Let's redo this as a Toonz raster level right here. Alright, so I'm going to hit Alt-A-N. I mean, the great thing is you can mix and match. Do whatever you want, right? So I'm going to take the palette from here. I'm just going to grab the whole palette. Probably should have this kind of out of the way, but I'm going to grab all these colors. Control C, go over here, Control V, and it won't let me delete color number 1, which is a little annoying. So I guess I just have to sort of do it this way until it looks the same. I could take this, hit the R key, and sample it. The one thing that's a little silly to me is, like in Blender, if you were gonna sample a color, it doesn't matter what you sample. It can be the interface, it could be the window, it doesn't matter. It's gonna, whatever's under the cursor is what's gonna get sampled. OpenToonz is more like most programs where if you're gonna hit the R key to sample, you have to actually be sampling from the image, In other words, I can't sample an RGB value from the palette itself, which seems a little silly to me. But anyway, back to this. So now what we're going to do is try to preserve the basic look. And that's not too bad. Let's go to Alt-0. Pressure is off. I'm actually thinking that, yeah, we're going to have too much of a difference between the looks of these frames. Pretty sure. Yeah, there's no way. We can't do it. Got to stick with the, if we're going to do vectors for this shot, we're going to stick with vectors. So, no use complaining about it. Just get to it. Alright, so I'm going to cheat on this particular level. And I am not going to draw outside the lines, because I don't frankly care about that. Okay, I feel like my accuracy is too high. I don't really want it to catch every little. So I'm going to actually turn the smoothing down, but I'm also going to turn the accuracy down. So it sort of smooths things out for me better. Let's see if that helped. Yeah. I don't like that little twiddle at the end. That's better. Boom, 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 boom. Ah, see, ugh. Accuracy is too high. As is the smoothing, in my opinion. I think I actually want 0 on both, or as low as possible. Because I don't really want it to be that accurate, but I don't want a bunch of smoothing to be done after the fact either. It's kind of sort of better. Wow, that's not good. Okay, I guess we're finding our way here, folks. That's good. Okay, so roughly a third on both seems to be pretty good. Okay, that should be alright. Okay, so this mask actually needs to go under. And just connect that. Got a little couple little lines here. That's going to go across there. This is wrong. This guy does not have hair. He's only got a tuft of a ponytail behind. We sort of decided he looked tougher that way and stuff. Okay. I like that it connected there. Okay, so now with that actually all looks correct. I'm going to go, actually not preview mode, I'm going to go to this mode. So now what I need to do is I've got to connect this, let's say, to this. I'm thinking this can connect to there. This doesn't have to look right, it's just got to be closed shape so I can do the filling. So Ninja Flash won't fill. No gap there. There's the gap. Now I bet it'll fill. Yep. Okay, so I need to use the right color, obviously. Okay, so earlier, we did have a gap behind his mask earlier. So just to be consistent and accurate, I'm going to put a line right here so that we can fill that with his neck color, and then back to the costume. Costume, boom, boom, boom. There's his hair thingy dingy. In this particular case, we're going to fill it like so, and zoom back out. Okay, I've said it before, but on this shot, we are not dealing with shadows yet. Okay, so now this shot comes up to here, and then what do we have here? Ah, okay. So here's how we're going to do that. We're going to take this shot, hit the D key, duplicate it, and we're going to drag this shot right in here. Okay, because if it is possible for us to leverage the earlier work, then we should do so. So what we want to do is get from okay, I would say from the look of it, we could literally take this whole thing, do a rotation, and then we're just going to have to redraw the arms. So to make it simple, I'm going to crank up a really big eraser. And technically, I guess we should just do it like this. Just draw over it like that. Okay, cool. So now the B key comes back into play. And that closed that back up, which is definitely cool. And that closed up, which is definitely cool. I'm kind of impressed, to tell you the truth. We don't have the color. Sorry, I got to jump up out of here and steal something out of his palette. Let's go Control C. All right. Now we can come back here. Go down into that sub X sheet. Got to make sure we're on the correct level. Guess I could have stolen it from this level actually, so my bad. Control V. Wraps. Fill this. Okay, that's not closed. So let's just, whoops, darn it. I was hitting the zoom. I was hitting Z for zoom, which is not the correct. Okay, stop. B key. Okay, why would that happen? It would happen because I'm on the wrong keyframe. It's creating a new drawing for me. So again, my mistake. Fill that, and then let's just go here, back up a little bit, and put these indicators of the wraps in there, and let's just see what we've got. Now, in my opinion, I'm wondering if one intermediate key here would be useful. And I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to delete these two keys, or two frames I should say. I'm going to make a copy of this. Actually, you know what? No, I'm not. No, I am not. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to try using the plastic tool. Should I use the plastic tool? Let's give it a crack. We're only going to use it for this one key. This is probably going to backfire, but let's try it, because it is really fast to do. So, do we want to build a skeleton yet? No. First thing we want to do is paint rigid. Alright. In other words, there's stuff that we don't want to allow to deform. We don't want to allow, frankly, most of it to deform. Okay, I'm spitballing here. Spitballing means I'm kind of making this up, and I'm not really sure how well this is going to work. But let's say the basis for the whole thing is here. His head can't deform, but it should be able to move. And I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. What the heck? Let's animate this. Okay, so now we get to here. Okay, the root won't move. I didn't quite realize that. Can I hit the A key and animate it? Yes. Okay, so back to the X key. That's good. And I do not want to keep distance. This is actually a big win right here. This is a big win. Because if you go back to here, look at that. Now what we can do is go ahead and just stick in every 2 keyframes. I mean, come on. You can't argue with that. That's pretty nice. So I'm going to turn that off. Select this level. And we got a little bit of weirdness here. But again, these are only going by for... These are all... This is on twos, man. This goes by pretty fast. And by the time you actually can digest what you're seeing, it's out of frame. So in my opinion, we've gotten away with it. Let's see what we've got here. Look at that. That looks great. Fantastic. And I can go in anytime. Now, I would say that perhaps we should have one less key here. And if I was going to get rid of one, I'd probably get rid of that one. So I'm going to, I don't know if I can do this, but I think I can delete those 2 keyframes entirely. So that what happens is to go create a closed shape, fill it. Hello, what just happened? Okay, for our purposes, I'm going to say what? This is actually kind of interesting. Why can't we see this at all? Let's zoom out. There it is. Okay, and we need to be in this mode. We've got to have an infinite canvas so we can see what the heck we're working with. Okay, so go here, here, and there's your problem. There's your trouble, there's your trouble. Boom. And in fact, okay, that was probably dumb. We probably really needed to have this with a black outline, but let's just go ahead and get ourselves back under control here. Turn this back on. And I'm not... Frankly, this is, every once in a while I hit something that's really confusing, and this is definitely really confusing. That's frame 57. There's the problem. It was turned off. Yes. I see the problem. So let me check one thing here. Okay, so this shot here was only supposed to go to here. So I'm gonna delete these frames. Just get rid of them. And then while we're here, let's fix this. I think that this, let's hit the A key. Goes to there, and then here what we're doing is I'm going to go into this drawing and just redraw this. And I'm going to redraw it as an ellipse. So let's hit the S key. Or actually, let's use the G key to create an ellipse. And we want to use the ninja costume color for the ellipse. Okay. So I'm going to draw this ellipse like that and fill it. And then what I'm going to do is grab this, delete it. Hello. I'm going to grab this, delete it, grab this, and just move it over to where the other one was, roughly. And now, excuse me, when I go back here, I should be able to go right to here and just hit the A key and patch this. So I'm going to patch it like that and probably just extend it. I'm going to extend it all the way because there's a little tiny gap. So now I'm going to go to preview mode and let's go ahead and loop the sucker and let it cache into memory and see how it looks. Okay, there's a little bit of a wiggle there on his shoulder that I don't like, but now it's all in memory, so it should play back really nicely. I was wrong. That wiggle goes by so fast that you don't even see it. So now I'm going to go out of preview mode, but get into camera crop mode. Look at this at full size. Frankly, people, I would say that factoring in the fact that we are going to add shadowing and stuff to polish it up, I think it looks pretty darn good. So I'm going to go ahead and save all. Save early, save often, as I like to say. And then I'm going to hit the L key, jump back up out of this sub-X sheet, and I'm going to go ahead and watch this thing from the beginning. Let's go back to frame 1, and I think we want our final frame to be 1000. So let's go right here, set the stop marker, and we will rewind it, and let's just take a look. And this isn't really how it really looks, because there's some post-production going on, but we're going to live with the approximation of what it's supposed to look like. So I'm going to hit the L key. So Akari is breathing there, she's sleeping. Little wider shot, which when processed, these are like moonbeams coming in. The ninjas are climbing the wall. This guy's struggling a bit. And the rock falls to the ground. She's a little disturbed by that. We're not going to redo the ink on those shots. He knows he's in trouble. That, I gotta say, the vector imagery looks good. So, yeah. The reality is we're getting perilously close to the end of the line here. Okay, so getting back to this shot, I was working on this shot yesterday on my laptop, and oh my gosh, what a nightmare. It was okay. I mean, basically for doing like pencil tests, it's fine. But once you get into anything that is, well, like you see here, you know, you've got a painting in the background, you got multiple layers, it's starting to stack up, then the laptop really bugs. I mean, it's a cheap laptop. It's like well, I think it has a Pentium chip, so it's really old. So it's good to compare how it performs compared to this machine, which is a 12-core i7 machine, you know. Okay, so now what we want to do is incorporate, I believe, this drawing here underneath of here. So we're going to have, I know what I did. Okay, so I've got to go ahead and swipe the background image from another scene. And I believe that would be this one. So I'm going to go down into this sub-X sheet. And I hope I can do this. I'm going to actually grab all of these keys. copy, come up out of here, go down into this, and I'm just going to paste them here. Okay, and now I'm going to grab all these keys, drag them down to here, and then obviously they need to be in the background. Okay, that looks pretty good. The only caveat being that I really want to I want to scale this up a bit and make some adjustments. And if I scale one or the other, well, actually, to tell you the truth, this one is already not scaled, so it basically looks kind of stupid. So if I bring it up to there, let's see what this looks like in preview mode. Not horrible. So, gosh, let's just leave it at that. Let's leave it at that. Let's do a Toonz. Let's just hit the B key. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my foliage brush, and I want to put this layer level, I guess is really what I should be calling it. I want to put this level here, and all three of these across need to be dragged so they match up to the other shot. What's cool about the work I'm doing right now is you are, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're seeing this is about as fast as you can go. I mean, this is the actual pace of the job. Okay, so I'm going to hit R and then the B key, and let's just see what this looks like. Okay, it switched brushes on me. I hate that when you switch away from the level, it switches brushes on you. So now I need to select the foliage brush and select the RGB value, and now I should be able to paint. Okay, it's got the opacity turned way down. Sorry about that. Let me see. Okay, yeah, that's a little too coarse. So let's crank that down a bit. All I'm trying to do here is delineate a more... I want a little bit more of a clay earth kind of look down here. The fact that it was a little different in a shot that just went by a couple seconds earlier doesn't matter. That continuity is not really relevant. The important thing is we've got an area right here for the piece of rock to fall down and hit the ground. So now the question becomes, how do we want to do that? I think the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to create a Toonz raster level, or not a Toonz raster level, just a straight raster level, and I'm going to map out the timing of it before I even try to draw the rock. So what are we going to have? We're going to have perspective going like this. So this is, you know what we should do? I almost want to do it in reverse. Okay, so let's do it this way. Let's just make a really bright color, and we're going to say I'm going to just draw these lines in here. Okay, and that's just a guide, so I need to have that extended down to here, and this level will just wind up getting deleted. Okay, we're going to add another level, go to black, and so what's going to happen is we're going to have a rock, and let's just turn on onion skin so I can see one frame behind, and I think this should be looking bigger here. Alright, I have no idea if the scale of this is going to be about right. No idea. It looks pretty good though, I must say. Okay, the only thing I'm going to object to is we're trying not to do things on ones here. And now I'm expanding it out to twos. I could also grab it like this, and I think if I right mouse click, I could reframe it on twos. So that's kind of convenient. Alright, so let's go ahead and set a stop marker. I think the start marker is already at 1. So let's see what this looks like first of all. That's pretty good. Alright, so I always like it when the animation makes me chuckle, because that's usually a good sign. Okay, yeah, so what's going to happen is it's going to fall out of sight, and then half a second's going to go by, and then you're going to see something like this. I guess I need to go back 2 frames with my onion skins. Just a little longer. Alright, now we'll get rid of this guide shot, and then let's just look at it and imagine what the sound effects would do. Okay, it's all too fast. All too fast. So now I'm going to take all of this and I'm going to reframe it on 3s. Ah, that didn't work. Well, maybe it did. Let's see. Okay, it just makes everything on 3s. Okay, well that's okay. I wonder what happens if I reframe it on 4s. Yeah, same difference. Okay, fine. Let's do that. Okay, so now what we've learned is this whole dynamic of it shrinking again is stupid. Those shots need to disappear. Alright, what needs to happen is just and then we'll just let it fade out. Okay, let's see how that looks. Okay, I want a little bit more of a delay before the poof. So yeah, right here needs to be quite a bit longer. And we're just spitballing, obviously, on the timing. Nope, still not long enough. Okay, and then the thing about this is this needs to go like that, and then this whole idea isn't working. What we need to do is just keyframe the opacity from here down so it slowly fades out. Okay, and since there's no real way to emulate that in the preview, I'm just going to let it disappear. So now let's hit the L key and see what the whole shot looks like. Okay, the one thing I want to change, frankly, is once this hits, right about here, I want to see his eyes change. So the best way to deal with that is to go into this picture right here and erase. Okay, so I'm on the correct keyframe. Alright. And I'm going to hit the K key to sample this color and then fill these back in. It looks like it's not perfect, so I'm going to go ahead and touch that up. Not sure what I'm seeing there. Okay, it looks like I need to erase lines only. Yes. Okay. Erase lines. And let's actually do it this way. I know this is a kludge, but I'm gonna just take the eyeball color and copy over it. So now what I'm gonna do is just give him some eyeballs. And the quickest, easiest way to do that would be to just go like that. And we're going to extend this all the way down. So the idea is that once it hits, so I've got to zoom out here, obviously. Once it hits, right about here, I'm going to say here. Okay, that's kind of weird. Oh. Okay. And gosh, it's tempting to use some plastic tool to furrow his eyebrows because it would be fairly easy to do so. But I think I'm going to pass on that. Let's call this eyeballs. Actually, they aren't even eyeballs, they're actually pupils. And I want to be very specific about that in this particular case. Okay, so now I just want to check the timing on that. So, yes, definitely too early. So you need to have the poof, and then he looks up at his partner, who is not going to be pleased. Still too soon. It could be we're only going to be able to have a half a frame, quite literally. Maybe a quarter of a second. Yeah, actually that's okay. Now we gotta paint the rock. Okay, so how do we want to do this? It'd be nice to have a I don't know, we don't really need a painting of a rock, I don't think. This goes by awful quick. And this is all the size. Let's just try to be real precise about it. Let's do -1 for now and see what that looks like. Okay, that's pretty good, actually. That is pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and erase the sketch as I'm painting over it. And obviously this layer needs to be, I call it layers, and when I mean levels, this level needs to be under our hero. Our hero. He's actually our villain, if the truth be known. But okay, one thing I'm wondering about this is in the settings. Not so sure about this opacity. Let's turn it up to 2 and just see what happens. Yeah, it still seems to have a yeah, it doesn't seem to matter. So what happens if we, because it's, yeah, that's nothing. So it is sensitive to the opacity here, but let's turn pressure off and see what happens. Doesn't seem to make any difference, so whatever. That's fine. So I'm going to go ahead and double click this on the edge so that I can get back to my colors. And really the main consideration here is that there is a moon shining from this direction, the upper left corner. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and paint this whole thing using what you might call, I'm going to make this a little bigger, the local color, if you will. In other words, what's the native color of the rock? It would actually be this. So I'm going to go ahead and just stick with the local color and the shadow color, and then we'll get to fine-tuning it with a little bit of texture shortly. Okay, next keyframe. I want the local color, so RGB. Next keyframe. So yeah, so I'm just trying to save time by doing all of the similar operations in a single step. In OpenToonz you can use the plus, or not the plus, the period and comma to go to the next drawing. What I'm actually hoping here is maybe, okay, essentially that's not visible anymore, so okay, so there's our explosion. So I'm not even going to deal with how to do the poof yet. Let's get the rock sort of looking right. Okay, so now what I want to do is turn off the onion skins. That red in the viewport's really distracting. So let's go here and turn these guys off. Okay, so now I'm going to sample that, which is sort of the lighter tone, and go through all of these and just establish. And of course these go by really fast, so it's not like they have to be amazing. The main point here is that upper left is where the light is coming from. Okay, now let's pick a shadow color, which I think this would be the likely suspect. And let's go back. Okay. Next drawing. Next drawing. So we'll just get these guys all. Oh, these effect shots are super cool. I mean, they add a lot of production value. Okay. Let's replay that. I do find that kind of amusing. Okay. So that's good. So now there's nothing until this. So how do we want to do this? Well, I'm thinking, actually, let's go back one step. I was talking about adding some texture to the rock. And the way I was going to do that was to take this foliage brush, -1, and probably put a fairly sharp highlight on it, because all of the texture that would come from it glinting light off from the moonlight, you would only see that texture in the really bright highlight areas. Okay, so that's actually slightly too, what's the word? I think the texture felt like it was a little too fine. I want it to be quite coarse. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now as long as we're here, why don't we put this here like it should be. And one interesting thing about it is this particular frame, I kind of feel like I want to see a little bit more of that glinting highlight from the moon. So just because we want it to obviously to pop. Now this is going by really fast. It doesn't have to be photoreal. Okay. But now we got to deal with the smoke. So one question we might ask ourselves is, do we want to go down the road of learning about particle effects in OpenToonz at this juncture? I think not. I think we are going to stick with the way we're doing it. So that means we've got 3 keyframes that need to create what will look like billowing smoke. Alright, for lack of a better idea, I'm going to use my foliage brush again, and I'm going to take first of all, just take a tone that kind of sort of looks like smoke to me. Okay. Now we're going to actually use the particle brush to paint over the previous lines. Okay. And this is kind of accurate, I think. The concentration of dust billowing out from this would leave the center more or less unaffected. So I'm really I'm learning as I go here, but I think if we make this smoke effect, we just go ahead and follow the lines and then go in and, you know, save our work, but then go in and sort of see if it can be made a little more distinct or whatever. So we only have these 3 keyframes, and then it's obviously got to gradually fade out over time, which we'll probably do as a post effect. So just give me half a second to get this dusty mess in there. And then, okay, first of all, let's just see what that looks like. See if it's even close to being acceptable. Kinda, but not really. I think we need in-betweens. So what's going on here? Oh, I see, my palette is like covering this up. So I want to go here and put a keyframe. Okay. So I'm going to go here. Oh, I see. I need to see both ends of it. Never drawn, let alone animated, the effect of, you know, sort of a billowing dust thing going on because of something hitting the ground. So I really have no idea what that's supposed to look like, but I'm okay. Yeah. So if that faded out, now I'm gonna say let's give it a darkish core. And the idea here is the same thing we've been sort of working with, which is the idea that if this actually created a billowing cloud of sorts, and this definitely needs to be extended so it can just be made later to fade out, then you would have it would be affected by the moonlight. Okay. So you would see a glint of the moonlight on the leading edge of it, upper left, and maybe a little bit here. So we don't care that it looks accurate from an Einsteinian physics standpoint, but all we really care about is that it's convincing to the eye. Now let me see what this looks like played back. Get rid of that. This guide, that's just for perspective, so can get rid of that. So it looks like we're not going to really be able to preview it very well rendered, so we can't really get that fade out effect, unfortunately. Yeah, as long as that, yeah, it's got to fade out. I'm going to put that fade in there. I wonder what we could do. Let's do it this way. I'm just going to see if I can get away with this. 53. Okay, let's first of all get rid of all these. I guess you have to hit Control X to actually get rid of them. Yeah. Okay. Whoops. Control Z. So we've got, I got to be careful here because we have 82 and 78 that are kind of important. So let's get rid of those. 78 and 82 are both part of the scene. So what I want to do is make a copy of 53. Okay. Now the question becomes, how can we make this fade out in the actual viewport? And if it works, we'll do it on twos. So my assumption would be, what we want to do here, this is definitely going to be kind of tricky. I'm going to take my foliage brush, erase it, okay. I'm going to duplicate this, put it here, erase a little more, duplicate this, erase a little more. So I'm just doing this so that I don't have to do the fade of the smoke as a post effect, which would prevent me from actually being able to see it, which would kind of suck. Let's look back here, what we've got. And I actually think I can do it this way. Let's go duplicate this, erase a little more, duplicate this, erase a little more, and finally erase it all. Okay, so we've got 57 in here, so let's go 58, 59, 60, and we will drag these into here, and then we're going to reframe these on twos. Actually, let's reframe these on threes. We'll stretch these out a little bit more, and then this becomes a 4. So cross your fingers, folks. Okay, depending on how fast that goes, it might work. Honestly, I just don't know if it's going to work. It probably will, because the actual environment here in this scene is very, it's pretty dark out, actually. So we're going to have to use some lighting effects. I don't really like the way it fades out. I can't say I'm being super successful here, but yeah, we've got some in-betweens here that actually are not working at all. Well, that would explain a lot. 62. That definitely explains a lot. Then it fades out. So frame 76 needs to have a onion skin there and there, and we're going from this to this. So let's do the foliage brush. Let's just see if we can fix this problem. Alright, I'm sampling this color, and I believe I wanted this at 1, if I remember correctly. Let's just do it like that. Okay, so let's just see if that looks right. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, so yeah, we can't have it like disappearing, right? So there it is here and there. We've got to get in between the two. So basically we can just draw some smoke in between the red and the green, and it should be about right. Here to here, probably just a little bit. Okay, so let's turn our onion skins off. Hit the old L key. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so now the argument could be that the whole scene should last a little bit longer because of the way his eyes look up at his partner. We're going to address that later, though. We don't have to address that now. It's pretty easy to do a little timing tweak. So let's hit the L key and get back up into our main scene so we can sort of get some context here. We're going to go from frame 1 down to probably, yeah, I'm going to say, I think this is set to go to 1,000. Set the stop marker, L key. I'm just going to review now. Okay, so there she is sleeping. Unexpected, uninvited guests. That's the shadow. The reason that duplicates is because of this shadow. Yeah, there's definitely some retiming that's going to be called for, but they're going to climb, so I think we need a couple in-betweens there, but it's obvious that Akari knows what's going on. So couple points here. Going back to the beginning. Let's see if I hit play. Yeah. If we go to here. So here we have vector levels that the post-production effects turn that into like moonbeams coming in to her room, which is all done in the schematic view with effects. This shot is kind of similar. So everything's happening at night. That's why we can kind of get away with a bit when that rock falls and hits the ground. Like this is a good example too. If we turn on the effects, you can see that that second copy of him is actually a shadow. Okay, so this, I mean the post-productions, what I'm thinking will happen here is that this whole shot is going to be quite a bit darker, and then we'll probably use an overlay to sort of give you some highlight, you know, basically use a gradient and an overlay to draw the eye to where we want it to look. Okay, so not totally sure I'm thrilled with this, but the basic pieces are there. I love the shot of the foot. It's kind of a bummer it goes by so fast. And his eye looking up at his partner, that definitely, we really want to have it disappear, and then he looks up at his partner, and that's that. What it actually, it's interesting because it suggests that we really want a way to extend this X sheet down and have literally all the other levels that are not in the same level all move down as well. It'd be nice if we could have it do that, but and there may be a way. But let's go ahead and deal with Akari. Now, as far as I'm concerned, you know, unlike this was done as a Toonz vector or as a Toonz raster level. It's kind of interesting because all this is the actual ink lines that came out of Blender. The main problem with it being that you get a lot of noise and little dots and dashes that make the filling process harder. This shot, I believe, was also straight out of Blender. No, this shot was re-inked as a Toonz raster level, which you can see the lines are real clean, and it gives you a lot. I'm pretty sure I redid this as a Toonz raster level. I feel a little remiss saying that. Let me take a quick look and see if that's correct. I might be talking out my wrong end. No, I am. This is actually a it's right here. Yes. Okay. I'm sorry about the confusion. These shots with the foot were done as Toonz raster levels. Now when we get to here, where the heck is he? I guess he's here. Yep. So this is not a Toonz raster level. Is it? Is it? Maybe it is. I think it is. 50. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, okay. If you can change the colors after the fact, it's a Toonz raster level. So, to answer the question, yes, that shot was completely redone, re-inked in OpenToonz. Now this shot today was re-inked using Toonz vector levels, which is the first time I've used vectors in this project. And I gotta say, not too bad. I'm gonna want to add some detail, shadowing, highlighting, all that kind of stuff. Probably not with vector levels. Maybe use a Toonz raster level for that, so that I can like maybe add a little shine on his forehead and then really dial in the color after the fact or whatever. But so now his flesh tone is all wrong. I forgot about that. So I want to go in and see what I have here in this. Yeah, that's not correct. His flesh tone is actually supposed to be this color. So as long as we're here, okay, it's actually this. Yes, I think I stole these colors from. I stole these colors from another level, and I kind of grabbed the wrong colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this set of colors, because you don't realize it, but this is actually more egregious than you might think. What happened here is when I did this scene, this was the first cut that I went in and said I'm going to see if I replace the Blender ink lines with Toonz raster level ink lines, how does it go? And I found out it goes really well. This was after actually redoing a bunch of it in Krita to see if that was any improvement in terms of workflow. So what I'm going to do is just refill this, and we got it in freehand mode. So let's go ahead and get this up to scratch. Ninja Flesh, okay. And I'm guessing this is, nope. So that's kind of interesting. So let's go ahead and paint that. So obviously we need a shadow color here. So I'm just going to click that, make it a little darker, And we've got some, we've got some problematic outlines. So the solution might be to go lines and areas here. Yes. This is a patch job, put it that way. What I'm doing right now, I'm kind of kludging over something that I did as an experiment. Wasn't even sure if it was going to work. Whoopsie poo. So as you can see, there's actually a plain old raster level painted over top of it for like highlights and shadows, and that's introducing more problems than it solves, because the actual local color that's baked into this shot is wrong. So how could my shadows and highlights possibly be correct if the underlying colors that are being manipulated or painted over are already incorrect? So this, I'm gonna, yeah, see, that's really annoying. I totally screwed this up, but it is salvageable. The only thing is, let's do this. Hit the K key. There, that's useful, because that helps me see exactly what color I'm dealing with. So this really needs to be kind of sort of about there. And what about this? Okay, can we make that even darker? Yes, that looks good. That we pretty much fixed it. So that's cool. Now what we don't have is all this additional detail, which frankly isn't helping. We do need to add additional detail, but if we're going to do it, let's do it correctly. So just in case you're keeping score, and I know there's a lot of little tiny flaws here, frankly, normally that might be a big deal. I don't know. In this case, I almost feel like I can get away with it, because let's hit the fill tool, because it's going to be the whole thing's going to be darkened quite a bit. And if you had a black backdrop behind it, actually there's your solution. Let's do this. This is a great example of how you can sort of fix some stupid stuff pretty easily. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a Toonz vector level. Okay, so Alt N, and this is going to be a Toonz vector level. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the G key to create a polyline. Okay, now here's what my polyline is going to be. I got black here. I'm going to go just going to draw a lasso around this. Now if it wasn't for the fact that this particular cut, and now I'm going to fill it, this particular cut doesn't have any other keyframes. I mean, this drawing is all there is for this shot, so I can kind of get away with a little bit more. If there was a lot of movement, then obviously this patch would have to be edited, but now I've effectively just covered up the glitch. I can see one spot where it's problematic still, right there, and I can go in with the C key, just drag that right up there, and we're back in business. So just an easy way to fix it quickly. So now we're going to have to add some highlights and shadows, and obviously the background as well. So since we're here, let's do it. Alright, so what I'm going to do is go up out of this sub-X sheet, and let's go down into this shot that we were just working on, and we're going to grab these two levels, which represent the backdrop, and I'm just going to grab these two keys. So I'm going to grab these two keys and hit Control C, jump up out of here, go down into this sub-X sheet, click here, and hit Control V. Hello. Sorry about that. I hit Control C by accident. Alright, so now this actually needs to be scaled up and moved considerably. I'm going to get into probably get into some kind of legal trouble, because this particular image is just something we found online, but it's all painted over effectively. I mean, actually, let's just get rid of it. We don't even need this column. In the other shots where it exists, it's so painted over that for all practical purposes it's not really even there. So that's why I feel reasonably comfortable using it. But I need to go out on Pexels or something and see if I can find some appropriate Tibetan monastery imagery. So I'm just going to scale that up. This is the background painting, and I'm going to actually scale it up quite a. This area of the painting is always hidden behind characters, so it doesn't really matter if we expand that. It's not going to do damage to any of the rest of the scenes. So now I'm going to grab my foliage brush. Size is 1. Let's just see how that goes. Okay, I don't like size 1. I want it like size 0. Size 0 really means the native size that the My Paint brush was when it was created as a My Paint brush. So as you can see, all we're doing is just doing a little bit of fill in to make this not only look better, but also sort of you'll see I'm going to just cheat a little bit here and use this to see that. See how I'm cheating? I'm using the foliage behind to sort of create a little envelope around my character to make him pop a little bit more. There we go. So that looks good. Alright, so problem solved. Now the only other thing that remains would be a little bit of detail over top of our character. So let's hit Alt-N. And do we want to do a raster level? Let's do a raster level. What the heck? That's actually the default in my particular OpenToonz installation. Okay, so first of all, let's see what brush we have. Okay, that's really not quite what we want. That's okay. Yeah, it's actually pretty good. So I'm going to hit the R key to sample that and then make it, just turn the value down a little bit. And that way we can just kind of go like this. Little bit under the eyes. Let's back off a little bit and see what that looks like. Yeah, it's not too bad. So now we're going to do is sample it again and then make it a little brighter. Okay. And B key. Actually, I like that I can kind of press hard and get a little highlight there. How's that look? That looks pretty good. There probably should be a little bit on his ears, I suppose. Nope, that's too much. Okay, so now the other thing I want to touch up a bit is the ninja costume. So I'm going to just turn the value up slightly. And the idea here is that, okay, so this has got to be bigger. The idea is that he's being hit with moonlight. Okay, yeah. From behind. It's hard with the My Paint brushes. Sometimes it is definitely hard to sort of dial in the size and stuff properly. So sometimes you just have to do more than one stroke in order to get it correct, which is fine. It's not a big deal. It takes half a second, as we like to say. Okay, maybe a slight highlight there, because again he's backlit. The only thing I'm kind of objecting to would be this. I think that looks kind of stupid. So it's nice that I can paint back into it. Turn the hardness up a little bit. We do actually want that to be kind of a sharp line. For a lot of kinds of animation, it would be nice to have that soft edge, but for this, not so much. And probably a little bit of a tweaky poo there. And what I'm actually going to do here is a little bit of a cheat. I'm going to sample that color, and then I'm using this little, like this oil paint brush. I should be able to just like soften that right out. Okay, so I'm going to zoom way in here, hit the brush, bring the size down so I can just, let's see. We'll see if that works. This might be too noisy. Let's go to Alt-0. Yeah, it's definitely too noisy. I don't like that at all. I'm actually going to do exactly the opposite of what I said a minute ago and turn the hardness down so that I can paint. I actually want a little bit of softness there, but I don't know. That's really not helping, is it? So let's go back to this brush, which should be set on the same color it was before. Yep, but the size is wrong because whenever you make a change here, it affects the sizes of all brushes. It's kind of like a global scale kind of thing. That actually looks pretty good. Okay, cool. Gonna have to do overall color correction. Let's do the R key here. Make this value a little bit hotter. And then we just want to have his hair catching some of the glint from the moonlight. And again, the opposite, so R key and then value down. And I better zoom in to get this right. Alright, and basically we're going for that anime look, right, folks? So that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. The only other thing I can see maybe adding here would be, if you think about it, if this is catching a shadow, then maybe it would also catch a highlight like that, right? So we don't want to add too much detail and make it so that it's starting to look like a painting instead of an anime, but I think that's pretty good. So I'm going to hit File, Save All. Yeah, I've been going for 2.5 hours today, so I think with that I'm going to preview the whole scene and then call it a day. So let's go back to the top and hit the play button, and when it's done playing we're going to sign off. That before it pans should probably take a little longer. That's zooming in too fast. And that should definitely last longer. Back to this guy, he's a little worried. He's upset. Come on, let's go. Climb up the wall. But Akari knows they're coming. So there you go. There's the scene. It's actually getting close to being done. I would say if I knew, if I had the facility with OpenToonz and sort of knew the limits and capabilities of all the tools before I started, I think this whole thing would have been done. I mean, I'm working on it about 2 hours a day, I guess, so I'm thinking maybe 3 days or so. Instead, it's taking like a week and a half. But definitely gaining a lot of facility with OpenToonz and learning the strengths and weaknesses of Blender Grease Pencil and Krita in the process. But I will say, at all aspects of the animation creation process, I am finding consistently that everything I need to do, OpenToonz seems to do a little better than the other guys. And so for that reason, I'm staying here for the moment. Anyway, that's it. I will be back maybe later, maybe tomorrow, but I will tweet. Follow me on Twitter, Blended Planet. That way, when I'm going to live stream, I'll tweet it. If you're if you want to comment on anything you see, you know, feel free. I encourage people to comment. I'm interested in your thoughts and ideas. I've had a couple people say things as I was working on this where they suggested doing a shot a little differently or this sort of thing, and it's been quite helpful. So anyway, that's it, and more later, right?